Ladies, gentlemen, and dreamers everywhere, let me tell you something that took me years to learn, and even longer to embrace. Not everyone deserves access to your heart, your energy, or your story. I used to think that strength meant saying yes, staying close, giving chances over and over again. But life, experience, and a few heartbreaks taught me something else. Real strength is knowing when to step back. Real grace is knowing when to walk away, not out of anger, but out of clarity. We live in a world that tells us to always be available, always be kind, always give more. But here's the truth, not everyone around you wants the best for you. Some people feed off your energy without ever giving anything back. Some friendships turn into one-way streets. Some relationships blur your identity. And sometimes, in trying to keep the peace, you lose yourself. That's where the art of healthy distance comes in. Toughening up doesn't mean becoming cold or bitter. It means drawing a line, not out of hate, but out of love for yourself. It means recognizing that you are allowed to protect your space, your peace, your soul. You're allowed to say, this doesn't serve me anymore. You're allowed to outgrow places, habits, and even people. Distance isn't a punishment. It's a boundary, and boundaries are not walls. They're bridges to healthier connections, to self-respect, to growth. When you create space, you create clarity. You stop reacting emotionally to people who don't deserve that level of access to you. You stop explaining yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. You stop begging for crumbs of validation and start realizing your own worth. Toughening up doesn't make you selfish, it makes you whole. I know, it's not always easy. We fear being seen as rude, dramatic, or distant. But listen, being kind doesn't mean being naive. Being compassionate doesn't mean being a doormat. You can have a soft heart and still have a steel spine. Some of the strongest moves I've made in life came after I chose to create space. That distance gave me perspective. That distance gave me power. It reminded me who I was before I started trying to please everyone. And that version of me, she was fierce, she was focused, she was free. So to every person listening today, toughen up, not with anger, but with purpose, not with revenge, but with vision. Learn the art of healthy distance. It's not about giving up on people. It's about giving yourself the gift of peace, because you deserve to be surrounded by energy that uplifts you, not drains you. Protect your power, own your space. And never apologize for evolving. There comes a time in life when you realize that not everyone who claps for you is cheering for you. Some people are only around for the benefits of your light, not the burden of your struggle. That's why protecting your energy is not just a preference, it's a necessity. When you constantly pour into others without being refilled, you slowly begin to lose pieces of yourself. And before you know it, you're drained, exhausted, and unsure of who you are without the weight of others' expectations. Protecting your energy means recognizing that your time, your spirit, and your peace are sacred. They are not to be given freely to those who do not honor them. Many people think that being loving or supportive means being endlessly available. But there's a difference between being kind and being consumed. You can love someone deeply and still choose to create space for your own healing. You can be loyal without allowing your boundaries to be trampled. Protecting your energy requires courage. It demands that you look closely at the people and environments you're constantly engaging with and ask yourself a simple question. Does this lift me or limit me? If the answer tilts toward limitation, it's time to step back. Not out of bitterness, but out of awareness. Too often, we sacrifice our well-being in the name of loyalty. We keep showing up for people who never show up for us. We overextend ourselves because we're afraid of being called selfish. But what's truly selfish is expecting someone to keep giving when they are running on empty. Your energy is your responsibility. No one else will protect it for you. You have to be intentional about where it flows, who receives it, and what you allow to influence your mood, your mindset, and your momentum. When you begin to protect your energy, you'll notice something powerful happens. You'll start to attract peace, you'll start to think clearer, your intuition will speak louder, you'll wake up with a sense of strength that no one can take away from you. That strength doesn't come from isolation, it comes from wise discernment. It's about knowing when to engage and when to withdraw, when to speak and when to be still. You begin to choose quality over chaos. You no longer chase validation from others because you've found a deeper sense of worth within yourself. In the end, protecting your energy is about honoring your life. And when you do that consistently, you'll realize that being selective with your energy is not hearted, it's value. Creating distance doesn't mean you're being mean, dramatic, or dismissive. It means you're choosing to honor your mental, emotional, and spiritual balance. Many people mistake distance for rejection, but in truth, it's a deeply intentional act of self-care. Sometimes the best way to love yourself, and even others, is to take a step back. Because not every relationship, conversation, or environment deserves constant access to your inner world. When you understand that distance is a boundary, not a punishment, everything changes. You begin to see it as a filter, a shield, a guide that helps you protect what truly matters. People often feel guilty when they begin to set boundaries. They worry about hurting feelings, disappointing others, or being seen as cold. But guilt is not always an indicator of wrongdoing. Sometimes it's just a sign that you're breaking free from a pattern of people pleasing. You don't have to be available 24/7 to prove you care. Love doesn't mean losing yourself. Support doesn't mean surrendering your peace. The healthiest relationships are the ones that respect space, not those that demand constant access. You are not required to shrink yourself or sacrifice your well-being to maintain a connection. Distance is also clarity. It allows you to see people and situations for what they are without the noise of emotional entanglement. When you take a step back, you're able to assess, is this relationship growing me or draining me? Is this space making me better or bitter? Is this connection built on mutual respect or just my effort? That kind of honest reflection can't happen when you're too close to the chaos. Sometimes stepping back is the only way to see the full picture. Healthy distance doesn't create disconnection, it creates understanding. It allows both parties to breathe, to recalibrate, to reflect. And if the bond is genuine, distance won't break it. It will strengthen it. It's in the space where growth happens. It's where you get to rediscover yourself, reconnect with your values, and reclaim your voice. Too often, we stay too long in places that no longer nurture us because we fear what stepping back might mean. But choosing distance isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's knowing that your peace is non-negotiable, that your worth isn't up for debate, and that your time and presence are privileges, not entitlements for others to misuse. So take the space you need, protect your boundaries. And remember, distance isn't an act of war, it's an act of love for the person you're becoming. There is a common misconception that being strong means becoming hard, emotionless, or detached. But true strength isn't about building walls or shutting people out. It's about finding the balance between compassion and conviction. You don't need to become harsh to protect yourself. You can remain soft-hearted and still have firm boundaries. You can be kind without being naive. Strength isn't always loud or aggressive. Sometimes it's the quiet confidence to walk away, to say no, or to stand your ground with grace. Many people fear that if they toughen up, they'll lose their warmth. But it's entirely possible to be gentle and grounded at the same time. You can still listen to others, empathize with their pain, and offer support, but not at the cost of your own well-being. When you allow everyone to take from you without replenishment, you aren't being strong, you're being depleted, and that depletion slowly erodes your sense of self-worth. Being strong is about knowing your limits and honoring them, not just emotionally, but spiritually too. You are not weak for needing space, you are not unkind for saying no, and you are not selfish for prioritizing your own peace. In fact, when you maintain your inner balance, you become more capable of offering genuine love and support to others. People often assume that strength means enduring everything, taking every insult, staying silent through every storm. But real strength often shows itself in the decision to walk away from dysfunction without drama. It takes courage to be calm when chaos wants a reaction. It takes wisdom to speak with restraint when your heart is hurting. And it takes maturity to protect your softness in a world that constantly tries to harden you. When you toughen up in a healthy way, you learn to stop seeking validation from those who don't understand your journey. You stop explaining yourself to those who are committed to misunderstanding you. You don't need to shout to be heard, and you don't need to beg to be valued. You carry yourself with dignity because you know that who you are doesn't need to be defended. It simply needs to be respected. So remember, toughness doesn't require the loss of your humanity. The art is in staying grounded in your truth while holding compassion in your heart. That's where the real strength lies. Not in bitterness, but in boundaries. Not in coldness, but in clarity. Being strong and being soft are not opposites. They are two sides of the same powerful coin. When you begin to set boundaries and create healthy distance in your life, something powerful begins to shift. Clarity emerges. In the noise of constant interaction and emotional entanglement, it's easy to lose your sense of direction. You get caught up in cycles, routines, and dynamics that no longer align with who you're becoming. But when you take a step back, when you allow yourself the space to breathe, you begin to see things and people for who and what they really are. That distance becomes a mirror, showing you truths that were hidden in the blur of closeness. You start to notice patterns you once ignored. You see which relationships were based on genuine connection and which ones were built on convenience. You realize who truly supports you and who only shows up when it benefits them. This type of clarity is only possible when you allow space for reflection, when you stop operating on autopilot and begin evaluating your environment with intention. Distance helps you reconnect with your intuition, that inner voice that often gets drowned out by the chaos of constant interaction. It brings you back to yourself. As you grow and evolve, not everything around you will grow with you. That's natural. But holding on too tightly to what's familiar can keep you stuck in emotional stagnation. Growth often requires letting go, not just of people, but of versions of yourself that existed to survive rather than thrive. Taking a step back gives you the opportunity to recalibrate, to align your outer world with your inner truth. And that alignment is where authentic growth happens. Sometimes we think being close to everything means we're connected, but often we're just tangled. The emotional knots, the confusion, the unspoken resentment, they build up when there's no room to breathe. Space allows those knots to unravel. It gives you a moment to see whether you're acting from love or obligation, from strength or fear. In that clarity, you gain power, the power to choose intentionally, the power to move forward with purpose, and as you create that distance, you also begin to see yourself more clearly. You remember your worth, your values, your goals. You stop being defined by how others treat you and start defining yourself by how you treat yourself. That's where real growth takes root, not in the comfort of staying close, but in the courage of stepping back. The distance you create doesn't separate you from others, it reconnects you with yourself. And that self-connection is the foundation of everything strong, beautiful, and lasting in your life. Choosing peace over chaos is one of the most liberating decisions you can ever make, but it often comes with resistance from others. When you begin to prioritize your emotional and mental well-being, people may accuse you of changing, pulling away, or acting distant. But what they often fail to realize is that you are not abandoning them, you are reclaiming yourself. You don't owe anyone an explanation for why you no longer tolerate dysfunction, why you stopped engaging in draining conversations, or why you've begun setting boundaries where there were none before. Your peace is not up for debate. In a world that rewards constant access, explaining yourself becomes exhausting. You may find yourself trying to justify why you said no, why you didn't respond immediately, or why you declined an invitation. But peace doesn't need to be defended. It's not a crime to protect your own space. It's an act of self-respect. And the moment you stop feeling obligated to explain your boundaries, you begin to walk in a new kind of power, one rooted in calm, not chaos. People who are used to benefiting from your lack of boundaries will be the first to push back when you finally enforce them. They may call you distant, selfish, or even cold, but their discomfort isn't your responsibility to manage. Their narrative about your life is not your truth. You have every right to evolve without guilt. You have every right to change your circle, your habits, and your responses without providing a full report. Growth isn't a group project, and healing doesn't come with a press release. You can still love people and choose yourself. You can still care deeply and keep your distance. It doesn't make you unkind, it makes you wise. The more you explain your peace, the more you invite others to challenge it. But peace doesn't require negotiation. It requires conviction. And the more rooted you are in your sense of worth, the less approval you'll need from those who never truly saw your value to begin with. Letting go of the need to explain yourself is an emotional milestone. It means you've learned to trust your instincts, to honor your emotional boundaries, and to believe in your right to a life filled with clarity and calm. Peace is not something you earn by proving yourself to others. It's something you choose, and once you choose it, you don't have to explain it. You just live it unapologetically. There's a unique kind of freedom that comes when you begin to create space between yourself and the people, environments, or habits that once clouded your clarity. That distance is not just physical, it's emotional, mental, and spiritual. And it's in that sacred space that you begin to reconnect with the version of yourself that existed before the world told you who to be. When you take a step back from the noise, you start to hear your own voice again. You remember your dreams, your values, your power. That's the gift of healthy distance. It gives you back to yourself. Many times we stay entangled in situations that make us feel small because we're afraid of what life might look like without them. But the truth is, creating space is rarely about loss, it's about rediscovery. It's in that quiet, reflective distance where your confidence begins to rebuild. You stop living in reaction to others and start living in alignment with who you truly are. You're no longer trying to fit in places you've outgrown or dilute your light to make others comfortable. Instead, you begin to own your story without apology or permission. As you reclaim your identity, you also start to recognize the ways in which you had been compromising it. You see how you tolerated disrespect, minimized your boundaries, or stayed silent just to keep peace. But real peace isn't found in pretending. It's found in authenticity. And authenticity requires courage. The courage to say, this version of me deserves to be protected. The courage to walk away from familiarity and step into growth. The courage to put yourself first, not as a last resort, but as a lifestyle. With that clarity, you begin to make different choices. You become more intentional about your relationships, more protective of your energy, more focused on your purpose. You understand that your life is a reflection of what you tolerate and what you cultivate. The more you choose to align with your truth, the more empowered you become. You're no longer searching for validation in the eyes of others because you've found your worth within, and that kind of self-assurance is magnetic. It draws in opportunities, people, and experiences that match the strength of your identity. Healthy distance is not about isolation. It's about elevation. It's about creating space so you can rise, rebuild, and reclaim what you may have forgotten, that you are enough just as you are. And when you truly stand in that awareness, you don't chase anyone or anything. You attract everything that's meant for you. Thank you.